Hey, what's up, guys? We're going to go ahead and go over a lesson on factors and greatest common factor, which is also known as a GCF. It's kind of a review of maybe stuff that you've seen in the past, but we did go over this when we went ahead and simplified radicals. So basically, what we're going to be doing is we're going to go ahead and be breaking down a number all the way down to its prime factors. So it's a pretty simple process, and we'll gradually build on skills because this is all going to lead to us being able to factor polynomials. So the first part of this lesson is finding the prime factorization of each number. So let's say I'm going to go ahead and have a number like 16, right? So example one, if I have 16, I'm going to go ahead and break this down continuously. So you can use the factor tree. Many of you guys are used to this, right? So I have 8 times 2. And the minute I see a prime number, I'm going to box it. So that way I know I'm going to hold myself accountable for that. So for this, that's going to go ahead and be 2 right here. And then the 8 is going to go ahead and break down to 4 and 2. I got another prime number right over here. And then I have another number that's not a prime. Gonna break this down, 2 and 2. So I have a prime and prime. So your final answer, you can't just leave it hanging in the tree. Your final answer, since I have 1, 2, 3, 4. That's gonna be my final answer is gonna be 2 to the 4th power. So that's what I want you guys to write down. All right. Let's go over another example. Let's do example 2. Let's say I have 35, right? 35, you can still break down. So that's going to be 7 and 5. And since those are both primes, my final answer I'm going to write as 5 times 7. That's it. All right. And then the final one, let's go pick a larger number. Let's say I have example 3. I have 72. So 72 is going to break down to 8 and 9. Those are not prime yet because you can continue to break them down. That's going to be 4 and 2. I'm going to start off with the left side, keep it organized. That's 1. And then this is going to be 2 and 2. So I have this and this. So go back to over here. The 9 can be broken down as 3 and 3. So that's already been broken down. We just need to go ahead and finish it off by writing it into a nice little simplistic form. So that's going to be 2 to the 3rd times 3 squared. And that is going to be my final answer. Do not multiply it, because if you multiply it, you're going to end up going back to 72. You want to just make sure you go ahead and break everything down. Simple. Keep it simple. Now we're going to go ahead and factor polynomials. And when we factor these, I don't want your final answer to have any exponents at all. You're just going to go ahead and break every single thing down. And this is actually going to lead us to finding out what the GCF of two monomials when we compare it to later on. But first, let's try some out. So let's go ahead and do example 1, which is going to be, let's go 36 x squared y. Now, what I want you guys to not worry about right off the bat is the variables. Let's just focus on the coefficient, which is the 36 in there. So we're going to break down the 36. So 36 is going to be 6 times 6. I can still break both of them down. So that's going to go ahead and be 3 and 2. Those are prime, so I'm going to circle them. And then this one is going to be 3 and 2. So when I write the coefficient out as its factored form, I'm going to go 2 times 2 because I have a 2 here, a 2 here. And then I'm going to go 3 times 3, boom, boom. And then I'm going to go ahead and write down all my variables that do not have an exponent. And it's very simple. Check out the x squared here. That means there are two x's multiplied together. So I'm just going to go ahead and write x times x. And since that y is by itself, that's it. That's the factored form. All right. Example 2. let's go ahead and do negative 32 A B. Whoop, let's go ahead and undo that real quick. A B C, and then let's go ahead and add a cube to it. Now, if there's a negative number in front of it, I want you to not only break down that 32, we're gonna pull out a negative 1. So right off the bat, I'm gonna have negative 1, and then that'll be 32. And then again, I'm not gonna focus on my variables. And then I'm gonna break down that 32 right after. So 32, that's gonna break down to 8 and 4. 8 times 4 is 32. The 8, familiar, 4 times 2. And then that's going to be 2 and 2. So I got my prime numbers right here. And then the 4 is going to break down to 2 times 2. So now when I break this down, I have 5 2's. So I'm going to write it out as negative 1 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. And then I got A, B, and I'm kind of running out of real estate, but you can write it completely across, but I'm going to go ahead and add to the bottom C times C times C. Again, no exponents at all. So we got to make sure, again, if we have a negative number, take out the negative 1, factor out the non-negative coefficient, and then break down all your variables. So that's it for this part of the lesson. We're going to go ahead and now use what we just did to factor out the GCF of 2 monomials, sometimes 3, okay? Now we need to go ahead and find the GCF of the given monomial. So what's the greatest common factor between both of the monomials? Now, for problems with just numbers, you can think of as what's the largest number you can divide 42 and 60 by. But for the sake of, us getting the practice, I want you guys to just break these down. I want to go ahead and break down the actual factors of each of the monomials. So I have 42, right? And then I'm going to go break that down. That's going to be 6 and 7. 7's prime. And then this is going to be 2 and 3. So boom, boom right here. And then the 60, that's going to go ahead and be 6 and 10. The 6 is going to break down to 2 and 3. So 2 and 3 are prime. And then the 10 is going to be 2 and 5. So what does this mean? We're going to go ahead and stack it up. So the 42, when I break it down, it's going to be 2, comma 3, comma 7. And then the 60 is going to be 2 times 2 times 3 times 5. And we're going to circle pairs, right? So when I circle the pairs, I have this right here and this right here. Those are what they have in common. Notice that the 7 doesn't match up with anything. The extra 2 on the bottom and the 5 doesn't match up with anything on the top. So all you need to do is finish it off. So my GCF are just basically my circled pairs, which is going to be 2 times 3, which is going to be 6. All right, so pretty simple stuff. All right, use a calculator if you guys don't know your multiplication tables, you struggle with it, and it happens, right? But don't let this discourage you from using the resources that you definitely have at home. All right, let's do another one, and this time we're going to include variables, and it's not anything different. Very simple process. All right, let's go ahead and draw a line going straight through. Let's go to another example. And let's do a problem like this. Let's do 18 A, B, C, comma, and then I have 54 A, B squared. So again, you don't need to go ahead and worry about the variables until the end of the factorization process for each of the monomials. So very first one, I have 18, so that breaks down to 9 and 2. 2 is prime. And then the 9 breaks down to 3 and 3, so that's 3 and 3 right here. So when I break down the very first one, the 18, I'll write it down here, 18 breaks down to 2 times 3 times 3. And then I have, whoops, let's go ahead and erase that real quick. Sorry about that. Let's go ahead and do 18a BC. We need to go ahead and write down the original term. So that'll be 2 times 3 times 3. And then I have A, B, and C. And then now we're going to do the same thing with the second monomial, the 54ab squared. So the 54 breaks down to 9 times 6. And then that 9 breaks down to 3 times 3. Circle it, circle it. And then that's going to be 3 times 2. So those are prime. I'm going to circle it. Remember, prime means that you can't break it down any further. So when I go ahead and do the second one, that's going to be 54ab squared. So that 54 breaks down to 2 times 3 times 3 times 3. And then the AB squared right over here. So that'll be AB times B. Keep in mind, there are two B's because it's being raised to the second power. The A is being raised to the first power. That's the only reason why I only wrote one. Now, we're going to do the same thing. Let's circle our pairs. Let's try to do some different coloring for this. All right. So I have a pair. So that's 1. That's 2 pairs. Oh, these 3. These 2 3s. Right? This one on the 3 on the bottom doesn't have a pair, so we're going to leave it alone. The A's match up, and then the B's match up. So my GCF for this problem is going to be, remember, 2 times 3 times 3 times A times B. And then for the GCF, you need to make sure you merge it all together. So that's going to go ahead and be 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 3 is going to be 18AB. So that's going to go ahead and be my GCF for 18ABC, comma, 54AB squared. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and try one on your own. All right, so I'll write down the problem. So I got 72 R squared S squared, comma, and then I have 36 R S squared. So pause the video real quick and then try it out on your own. All right, hopefully you tried it out on your own. So for the very first one, let's go break down the 72. So I'll do this in red. So 72 breaks down to 8 and 9. Now, if you chose 36 times 2, it's going to net you the same thing as long as you continuously break it down to its prime factors. So that's going to go ahead, break down to 4 and 2. That's prime. This is going to be 2 and 2. That's prime, prime. The 9 breaks down to 3 and 3. So when I go ahead and break down the 72 R squared S squared, that's going to net me 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 R S S, right? Because there are 2 R's and 2 S's. Now I'm going to need to do the 36. So the 36 breaks down to 6 times 6, and then that breaks down to 3 and 2. 1, 2. This breaks down to 3 and 2. And so breaking down the 36 R S squared, that's going to go ahead and be 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 R times S. And then finish it off, we're going to go ahead and let's choose green this time. Circle our pairs that they have in common. So that's a pair, 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 and that's a pair. So that's a lot right there. So let's try to, combine those together to create our greatest common factor. So our greatest common factor is going to be, I got 2, check that off, times 2, check that off, times 3, check that off, times 3, check that off, times R, check that off, times S, and then times S. And we got to combine it all into one. So that's going to go ahead and be, when I multiply these 4, that'll be 36, and then R S squared, and that's my GCF. All right. So for the homework, I believe I assigned it as 1 through 39 odd. So don't do all of them. You do all of them, you're gonna go crazy, right? I don't want you guys to, be overwhelmed with this assignment, because it should be very straightforward and simple. So 1 through 39 odd. All right, guys. Take care. Stay safe. And again, contact me if you have any questions.